called Can't Get Any Worse, so I think everyone knows you can't get any worse story. But, well, yeah. So, but yeah, fucking appreciate.
I don't know it.
That's the crazy thing. Adrian doesn't know your story. And I've been like trying not to tell him.
I intentionally try not to like.
Do you know anything about it at all?
No, he knows nothing.
All right.
Yeah. So I'm keen for him to hear the first time, but I also understand that you've told it 10,000 times.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Well, I'm sure we'll get into it and I'll tell some things that I have never told before. So
let's go. Well, yeah, let's kick off now. So we got comedian and podcaster Andrew Hamilton here tonight. Yeah.
We're doing it, boys.
Let's go. Let's
We're in
fucking
Queensland.
go.
That's it.
Yeah. But yeah, appreciate you making the drive down to this little shithole from Brisbane.
No worries at all.
Yeah.
You're from where, sorry?
I'm staying at the Mantra in like Brisbane CBD.
Okay.
Mantra on Queen.
But you don't live in Brisbane?
No. I live in Sydney.
Yeah, okay. That's
and so I'm just visiting, doing gigs for the week.
nice.
And so Jimmy hit me up, and I didn't realise when I agreed
How shit it was.
how fucking
What? Can I leave now?
how fucking far away I was going.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, oh well, I can't back out of it now.
Yeah,
Let's go do this.
I appreciate it. I know it's a hike.
Definitely.
But yeah, I'll make up for it on the drive back to the city.
Yeah, a hand job while he's driving. Yeah, thanks, mate.
That sounded so sexual.
I did. No. But I reckon let's just fucking get it out of the way straight off the top, I reckon.
Right.
So yeah, we have a Can't Get Any Worse story every week. I think we're all well aware of yours. And just quickly, we definitely didn't rip off your podcast, you do. I noticed that as I started to look into you.
What do you mean?
So you've got a podcast, I guess,
Yes.
before we get into yours.
Yeah.
Shit's Gone Sideways.
Yes.
And you get people in and they tell their stories.
Yep.
And there's some heavy shit on there, eh? Like,
There is indeed, but I don't know. The important thing with my podcast is not only that shit went sideways, but then they've recovered from it.
exactly, yeah, that's the cool
that there
part.
has to be some kind of redemption or rehabilitation piece.
Yeah.
So that's the thing I'm always looking for, because sometimes I'll get people pitching me their stories, and I'm like, yeah, but your life has just gone to shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We haven't found the upturn yet.
I'm like, where's the redemption? Where's the comeback?
Yeah,
and they're
for
like,
sure.
oh no, this is happening. I'm
Yeah,
like, well,
it's coming.
contact me in a year or two, mate. It's happened, you know.
Yeah, no, that's cool. Well, yeah, we only recently in the last sort of 10 episodes or something introduced this, because every podcast has got to have a spin on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, do you want to kick us off with your story?
Sure. Well, I was living a pretty good life as a commercial drug dealer in Sydney for over 15 years. I was selling magic mushrooms, LSD, MDMA, ketamine and cocaine. Living in a beautiful townhouse in Surrey Hills. I had a pizza restaurant in King's Cross that was getting rave reviews. I was engaged to a beautiful girl. I had 2 dogs. My life was good. And then my ex-fiancée had a mental breakdown on coke. She hadn't slept in a few days and thought that the mafia were trying to kill her or something, and ran off and told the cops that I had a house full of drugs, and got the house raided by the organised crime squad. And then I got sent to prison. And then things went from bad to worse continually, right? You think, oh, things can't get any worse. You're like, one, I'm in prison. Yeah. Then it's like, okay, now then you're in quarantine because of COVID at the time for like 2 weeks, and I didn't have a TV.
Isn't prison itself a quarantine?
Well, yeah, but then because of COVID, there was all these protocols about anyone that was coming in. They had to be like put in quarantine before they're put into a mainstream yard.
Yeah, right.
Right? Because otherwise you might come in with COVID and next thing you know, a whole yard's got it.
Yeah, yeah.
Because you're all pretty close to each other all the time.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of space.
Yeah, for sure.
If you're sharing a 2 metre by 4 metre cell with another bloke and one of you got COVID.
Fuck, that almost would have been worse, hey, just being alone, I guess, for, what was it? How long was quarantine? I don't even remember that shit.
I was in quarantine for 2 weeks, but in Sydney there was a lockdown that was 4 months, but it was basically the same time as the time I was in prison.
Crazy, yeah, right.
So you didn't miss out on too much.
I didn't miss out on much at all.
It was a good time to go.
In fact, I used to always joke that I was more social in prison than I was.
Right, yeah, for sure. I see more people than anyone else.
Yeah, because I'm playing touch footy in prison. right? People in their houses couldn't leave the house. They're having mental health issues. They're feeling isolated, and I was, playing cards every day. So it wasn't that bad. But in the space of a few weeks, like I had the quarantine, and that was pretty hard on your mental health, particularly the first 2 weeks when I didn't have a TV or books or anything. It was very hard just to stay out of your own thoughts, which when you just first get pinched, it's like the last place you want to be is in your own head.
For sure.
Because all you can think is like, I'm fucked.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah. How did my life turn to shit?
For sure.
Fuck. Everyone hates me. My wife's in the toilet. I'm going to be in here forever. And so then I found out that, like, because I was in remand, which is basically unsentenced prison, just when they think you're on serious charges and you're going to be there for a while, so they just send you in there to basically get the ball rolling, essentially. Right. And so at that point, I thought I was maybe going to get out on Supreme Court bail. So at the time, I thought I had this deluded sense that I was only going to be in there for about 4 or 6 weeks.
So they send you there before you actually
get sentenced. Yes.
Does that time count towards whatever?
Yes, it does.
Okay.
Yes, it does. Yeah. So when guys are in there for armed robs or murder or whatever you're in there, your case might go on. The trial might go on for 2 years, and then when you get sentenced, that 2 years is taken off.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay? That's already time served towards your sentence. But yeah, so I ended up doing like 4 months, but at the time I thought I was only been there for about 4 weeks. But then I found out that my lawyer had to pull out of the case because he wasn't sick and he hadn't even put in the papers for a Supreme Court bail yet. So then you think, oh fuck, I'm going to be in here for God knows how long. Then my fiance told me that she was leaving me after about week 3, and she had a new dude a couple of weeks later, and she rehomed my dogs, which so it was like just. Things kept getting worse and worse and worse, and then I had my restaurant went under because I wasn't there running it, and keeping it alive with drug money during a pandemic. So, so there was just a lot of shitty things that happened in a row to the point where you just feel defeated, And so there were certainly points, particularly in the first 4-5 weeks, where. I'm an optimistic person, but even I was struggling to see light at the end of the tunnel.
Yeah, right.
I was just like, why don't I just fucking neck myself,
Yeah, true.
Because, when there's just so many things going wrong and it all falls apart, it's pretty hard to be upbeat. But then that passes. I found other inmates were really good at helping you when they could see that you were down.
Yeah,
I mean, that's the thing you don't really hear about prisoners. You hear about all the violence and things like that, but you don't really hear about blokes helping each other, helping everyone when they're struggling, which is a big thing. There. Guys will try and cheer you up and distract you, and then you get into training, and then you just start to realise like this is something that you'll survive and get through, and life will go on. And so, it was during that time I started to see just so many funny things that would happen. Like, I don't know, I remember being in the yard one day and the prison guards called out for a guy named David Wilson. And then they were going, David Wilson, to the office, David Wilson. And then a whole yard full of like hardened crims started doing their best like Tom Hanks Castaway impression, going, Wilson, I'm sorry, Wilson. And I remember laughing so hard, and it just felt like such a strange place when you're looking around at all these barbed wire fences and the cameras and the guards, and just thinking like laughter doesn't feel like it should fit in this place.
Yeah, for sure.
And so, when I was laughing, I would forget for just a few minutes that I was in prison.
Yeah, that's cool.
And that's when I was like, wow, laughter's a pretty powerful agent if it can make you forget that you're in a maximum security prison surrounded by some pretty bad dudes.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
But there were funny things that would happen all the time. You'd hear stories about, there was a yard one over from me where there was like Chinese guys that would get like string and staples and put bread on it, and they'd throw it out to a pond and catch ducks. And these Chinese guys would reel in ducks and then kill them in their cells and cook up duck. Like, you can just imagine this like honk. I'm like,
was the pond on the other side of the fence?
Yeah, it was like
so how'd they get the duck?
It's outside the yard, like just a pond and ducks, and these Chinese dudes are like reeling it in both through the gap in the fence.
Oh,
like,
right. There's a gap.
Okay,
yeah.
There's a gap
do
in the
that
fence.
without being noticed.
And then there'd be like the Koori fellas, Aboriginal guys would try and do it so that they could try and sell these to the Chinese guys. Yeah. You hear these stories and you're laughing so much. Yeah. And so, it's not all doom and gloom in there. There's certainly things that make you laugh. And so
Yeah, I guess you hear like it's obviously a terrible place to be, but I guess there would be sort of like a brotherhood sort of thing that you'd develop.
If you're in the main yard, yeah. If you're in the main yard, so you're in like the general prison wing, then and you're not in the boneyard in the protection as a snitch or a fucking pedophile or a rapist or someone who's beat up the elderly or something. Right. All those guys are considered undesirable. If they're in the main yard and people find out about it, there'll be trouble.
Yeah, for sure.
But so if you're in the main yard, then you're considered okay. And then in that case, the only times guys really get hurt is if they're racking up drug debts or like starting beefs or like just talking shit. But like I just kept a pretty low profile and I was fine. I got treated great. People knew I was in there for mushrooms and thought it was funny. Yeah.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
So all these things that happened that were just so funny and just this strange world that I was dropped into because I grew up pretty well. I wasn't from didn't grow up around crime too much. So this was a very foreign world that I knew nothing about that I had to learn. And there was just so much of it that I could see the funny side of that. That was when I had time to sit in my cell and think about what I'd wanted to do with my life. And realised that I'd always wanted to do stand-up comedy.
Yeah.
And that was when I made a promise to myself that when I got out, I'd start doing it.
Yeah, that's sick.
And so I started writing jokes on my piece of paper in my prison cell, and I started scoring all my lunches and dinners in prison out of 10, like an adjusted prison scale. I started doing like these funny food reviews just to, keep myself from going insane. And then I'd sit there in my cell with my cellmate, and he'd be like, "Mate, you're out of your head giving that a fucking 6.2. That was fucking." Right. And I'd be like, well, "What do you mean? It's a 6.2, mate." And he'd be like, "Nah, it's a 5.5."
Food critic.
Yeah.
So you say you always wanted to do stand up. Do you remember like when you first because I'm the same way. Now that I know I want to do it, like it's always been a sort of an intertwining thing in my life that I've wanted to do deep down. Do you remember like a moment where you were like, "Oh fuck," like?
I mean, I don't remember a moment when I thought I really wanted to do it. Just I was awed by people that did it. I used to love going to watch Arj Barker when I was I'm pretty old now. I'm like 37. Like back when I was like 18, 19, I'd go see Arj Barker, and there were guys that still like some great Aussie comedians like Daniel Towns that would open for him. Yeah. And I just thought these guys are hilarious. I wish I could do that. And then when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, I'd go to local comedy gigs in Surrey Hills, and I would watch them. And I'd think of jokes, and I'd think that they were awesome, but I never thought I had the guts to go and try it. And I also didn't think like I had much to say.
Yeah, okay.
I didn't think I could. I didn't know how to write a joke.
Yeah.
And so I guess, going to prison and just suddenly having this wealth of these ridiculous things that were happening around me just helped me to write jokes, which I guess gave me the confidence to go and do that, because then I could go to open mics and I had this material that would stick out. But then it's also given me help and confidence to go and write jokes that aren't about prison, which is kind of what I'm working on now. Yeah, but for sure. For my first show I ever did was called Jokes About the Time I Went to Prison. Yeah. And I did that as an hour show in Melbourne in April. Okay. And that went great.
Yeah, awesome. You won Best Newcomer.
I got nominated. Nominated.
Nominated.
Yeah, I got nominated for Best Newcomer.
Still fucking sick.
I got offered the festival rejected me for like a festival managed venue, but I applied to all these other venues and I got offered a small cocktail bar, which is great, called the Bard's Apothecary at like 10:40 at night. So it was like basically the graveyard shift in a tiny room. And I just thought, look, I'll just go there and I'll do it and just see what happens. And then I plugged away and did the show 16 times over 3 weeks. Yeah. Okay. And the show slowly built up momentum, got some good reviews, and then got attention from the judges. And then they nominated me, and then I extended my run and did extra shows with the festival in a bigger room. Yeah, so it was kind of a spin out to do that only a year after I started comedy.
For sure, yeah. Did you have anyone, I don't think anyone would have openly said anything to you, but did you feel like people were like, "Oh, this guy's been in comedy for a year and he's at the Melbourne International Comedy Festival," or was everyone?
Not really.
Sort of embrace it?
So the people that I gig with all the time that I respect backed me to do it.
Yeah, sweet.
there were people that were saying I shouldn't do so many shows, or that because I think that they believe you've got to do at least 10 shows to be up for nomination for Best Newcomer.
Yeah.
So they were like, do 8 if it's going well, do more, or something like that. But that's not how I operate. I'm just like, fucking in for a penny, in for a pound, right? 100%. Let's just fucking do it. So
why would they not want you to like do more? Like, I don't understand.
Because it's basically saying, look, if the show's not as good as you hope it was, right? I just do 8, and then next year you can come back and do more, and you can be up for nomination then, right? So it's like you're saying you've only got one shot at being up for nomination.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I see.
Right.
Oh, I see. If you cross the threshold, then you can't.
If you cross the threshold, and then the next year you're not you're not a newcomer anymore.
That makes sense.
But it's saying the newcomer threshold is 10 shows.
Okay.
I don't know if that's true. That's that's what I've been told by people who seem to know what they're talking about.
Yeah. For sure.
But anyway, I did 16. I was up for nomination. I'd been there for like 2 seconds, and then it went well. But I mean, you do get a bit of that from some people, like, oh, who's this guy? He's only been around for a little while. But it's never people who are doing real well.
Exactly. That's exactly what I've noticed.
Just resentment.
It's never people that are doing really well. People that are doing really well, they see someone do well and they're like, fuck, that's awesome. Good on them.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
So, I think just... You don't need to listen to everyone's opinion on what you should be doing or should not be doing. I think you just got to go with your gut. I believed that I should be doing comedy when I was in prison. I've been doing it most nights ever since. And then I believed in my gut that I should go to Melbourne and I would do well, and I did. So I trusted my instincts. They've been taking me in a pretty good direction since I stopped doing crime.
Yeah. Sweet. Did you... So you're doing it for a year up until you did that. Was it an hour show? Or
Yeah. Oh, well, 50. It was like 50 minutes.
Yeah. That's still... were you confident in all your material? Because to be doing it for a year and have an hour of...
So I was as confident in my material as I could be at this stage, right? So it was a balance. It was a battle between am I good enough, and if I'm still talking about the 4 months I did in prison in 3 years, I'll fucking shoot myself.
Exactly. Yeah, that was one thing I wanted to talk about. So, are you worried about being pigeonholed as that guy? Like,
no, that's kind of why I wanted to race to get it out, because I I believe that I have such venom and I had such strong passion in what I was talking about. I was like, that'll help me to get away with the fact that not all the jokes are as amazing as they could be if I was a 5 years in writer of comedy.
Sweet.
So
flush this out.
So I was like, I was like, half decent jokes with me having a really strong passion for what I'm saying will get me by.
For sure, yeah. Because that's the first time I reached out to you, actually. Is I saw you popping up on social media and stuff, and then one random night you put a post in Blokes Advice, which I think most Australian blokes are in.
Yep.
And you just put a post up saying, hey, if anyone's in Melbourne and they're struggling or something like that, or can't afford tickets to a comedy show, like, hit me up and I'll give you tickets to my show. And I was like, fuck, we've got a good one here.
Well, it was also self-serving because
I didn't want to bring that far.
It was free promo for the show, and some nights I was doing the show to 4 people. I did the show to 4 people one night, so I'm like, I'm happy to have fucking an extra 5 people, 6 people in the room for free, just to make sure that the show is all right.
Yeah. Definitely,
So it was a mix between...
I was trying to make you sound good.
Don't you ever do that. It was a mix between altruism and self-serving thoughts, but...
They're not exclusive.
Exactly right. So it was a win-win for a few guys messaged me and came along to the show, which was great.
That's sick.
And it was a roller coaster, because the first night I got to Melbourne, I had 5 tickets sold, and then 17 people rocked up and bought tickets on the door. So in a small room, that was like, it's such a good atmosphere with even with 20 people in this tiny room. But the next night, I had 4 sold, and I'm like, oh well, that's all right. We'll have heaps more on the door. Then no one else came, and I had to do the show to 4 people. Yeah. And luckily, it was a hot 4. They were sitting in the front row, and we had a good time. But then I was like, okay, Melbourne's gaslighting me. This place is trying to just confuse the fuck out of me.
Right.
But then slowly it built. I was like, you build it, they'll come. So most nights I had every other night I had at least double digits. Okay. So I had at least 10, and then on weekends I started to build up to sellouts. So I was like, the room could fit 40. One night we had people standing in the back. We had like 50 in the room,
nice.
Which was like just so claustrophobic. Yeah. It was amazing. Yeah. It was one of the best experiences of my entire life. Just going somewhere like that, having a dream, backing yourself, putting your balls out there, and having like the odds a little bit against you, and then coming out with a good result was amazing.
Yeah,
and I
for sure.
got management out of it, which is great, and it's helped me to slowly work my way towards the dream of living off comedy, of having a living.
Yeah, that's sick. I love to hear like stories like that. Like fucking nothing better, I reckon. Like,
Thanks, man.
yeah. Like I guess it's the whole like story behind your podcast, I guess. Like
absolutely,
dig yourself out of the shit that you got yourself in, sort of thing.
Absolutely, I would not be in the happy place that I am now if it didn't go to shit. If it didn't all get worse and then worse and worse and lose everything that I thought I needed. Right, I thought I needed my fiance and all this money and my dog. I mean, I miss my dogs every day. I do need them, but like all this stuff that I valued was just like fucking nothing.
Yeah, 100%.
Not you can live without it. The things that I took for granted that I still had was I was so fat and unhealthy then, but like just health.
Yeah.
You know, when you just strip back to just being this naked dude who's just referred to as a number in prison, like a fucking barcode, and then all you got is just your body.
Yeah.
You're like,
definitely.
okay, well I better look after this thing, right? Because it's all I got right now.
Yeah.
That and a couple of packets of like Nescafe Blend 43 and some warm milk as like and a sad looking banana. I was like, I guess this is all I have in the world.
Yeah.
So I better look
what'd
after.
you rate the banana? I imagine one of the toughest things of the whole thing, like if it was me personally, because I'm pretty similar, I had private school education, like pretty much life set up for me if I wanted to take it, I guess, but I was shit at school and blah, blah, blah.
We don't know what we got at the time, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Was it tough when your parents found out?
Not really. I think part of them always had an inkling that like my money was coming from some questionable streams.
Right.
And then obviously it hit them hard when I first got locked up, but then I think they turned around pretty quickly and were like, we think this actually could be really good for you.
Okay. Yeah, sweet.
And I was like, well, I disagree.
Right now, this is like,
Get me out of here.
I want to talk to my lawyer.
No. But it ended up being great for me. You know, it completely
sick.
changed my life. I sobered up, I got off drugs, and I had time to think about what I really value in life and plot out a new course for my life where, you know, I'm good at what I do and I love doing it, and I finally feel like I live with purpose. And that was the whole point of a podcast was, that I wouldn't be on this happy life if things didn't go to shit. And I felt like that's a common thread. A lot of people have those kind of stories. So I talk to a lot of ex-crims, obviously. I call us the crimfluencer community. Crimfluencers.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of guys on TikTok that talk about their time in jail. Yeah. But also talk to people who have gone through major health crises, people that have been involved in religious cults and left them and their whole family, excommunicate them. I mean, there's all kinds of people that have... I spoke to a guy the other day that got like 3/4 of his thigh bitten off by a shark.
Yeah,
and he was like training. He was on the road to becoming a pro surfer, and that changed his life. So all the people have these crazy stories about how like their life has just been like just set in a completely new course because of some setback. But then I think we forget a bit about just the resilience of the human spirit. Like we're most of us are pretty good, and when we face adversity, we just don't know it. Right?
Yeah.
You don't know what you're made of until things absolutely fall apart.
Yeah,
and then you find out a lot about your character. Luckily, I found out that I'm not too bad. Right? I just needed to fucking go through that. Unfortunately, I hope that people can have that turning point without shit hitting the fan. But for a lot of people, unfortunately, that's the way it's got to go. You have to have it all fall apart, and it will suck, but you'll come through it.
Yeah.
It's interesting. That makes me think like, see, the countries that have mandatory military service. Like, I wonder if like that's a similar thing. Like they force you into like this really regiment, like strict environment. Like
I think probably I would agree that. I mean, I spoke to my uncle about my experience in prison, and he said that sounds a lot like the army.
Yeah.
And he became so close with the guys he went through it with, because when you go through this hardship with other people, it brings you together. But also in terms of just building mental toughness, I think it's kind of like forced hardship, which actually reveals a lot about your character. So I think it probably has merit.
Yeah, super interesting. Just when like hearing you talk about it, I was like, just all that I could think in my head is like, you just form such close bonds with all these people that you spend so much time with.
Yeah, I did. A lot of
a
lot of guys that talk about horror stories of like that. They're like, mate, no one in here is your mate. Don't fucking trust them. And I'm like, fuck, man, that's depressing.
No one here is your mate.
I was lucky. I hung around some really great guys. I mean, I hung around some guys that turned out to be not great, and sometimes they lied about what they were in for.
Right. Okay.
But a lot of the guys were genuine and good and helped me through a lot. And some of them have been out and then gone back in because it's a massive cycle of crime for most of them. Yeah. They're not in there for this first time. I was in there for my first time in a yard of 80, where I think me and one other guy out of 80 were in there for the first time. Everyone else were like repeat customers.
True.
Yeah.
That's crazy statistics.
So then you think your outcome is an outlier, I guess?
It absolutely is an outlier. And I know that a big factor in that was that I come from such a supportive network of friends and family, right? I got lucky. I had a house to go to when I was on bail, and I had guys offering me jobs when I was on bail to help me get back on my feet. Yeah. A lot of guys don't have that. And if you don't have that, you don't have a support network, you don't have friends and family sticking by you, and then the only people you identify with are the guys you did prison with. Imagine how easy it is to just fall back into a cycle of crime.
Yeah.
If I need money, how do I get money? I can't get a job.
But also, if you feel like there's no one out there for you to want to do better for, if there's people that you don't have, like, prison was harder on my family than it was on me, right?
For sure.
I didn't realise, when I was so selfish when I was doing crime, I didn't realise that you don't do the time alone. I was happy to do the time if I ever got caught, but I didn't realise you don't do the time alone. And when I realised that, when I saw that impact, I thought, well, there you go. That's it for me. Yeah. But if you get out and you don't have that, and you're like, well, then fuck, why would I care? Because prison's fine. I'll go in there, particularly Aboriginal guys. If you're in most yards have got 30, 40% Aboriginal men. Some of these guys have more power and respect in prison than they do in the real world. So if they get out, what's the reason for them to? What's the disincentive for them to not do crime?
Yeah, exactly.
That's interesting. You said so when you were living the crime life, that was something that you considered like, if I get caught, I'll do
totally.
Yeah.
I always was doing it. I was having a good time, but I was like, look, if I go down, I've made the choice.
Yeah. Do you So you say you had like a good support crew and stuff like that, and obviously at some stage you were known as like the Mushroom King of Sydney or something. Is that a genuine title, by the way?
Yeah. Self-titled.
Self-titled. Yeah, right. Okay.
I haven't done the numbers, but I'm pretty sure. Look, if you ever in Sydney in the last 10 years and you ask someone if they had a mushroom cap, it was a way to trace it back to me.
Yeah, easy. So from the stories I listened to, you had a mate that you were doing it with. Are you still mates with him and stuff, or you sort of had to?
Mushrooms.
Don't have to
mushrooms.
No, just like a mate. Like is he still your mate? I guess. Or have you had to sort of cut ties to get out of that sort of scene?
I was running the whole thing as a sole trader.
Oh right, okay, yeah.
There were guys that I was.
That's crazy that you refer to it as a sole trader. Like, it's legit.
Yeah. Got an ABN. Yeah. It was just me on my own.
Okay, right.
Yeah.
These pizzas will be extra special.
Some of those guys I know went into the guys that I bought off, went dormant for quite a while afterwards, just in case they were going to get a knock on the door, because I got arrested on the exact same day as Operation Ironside, which was the Anom takedown, when they had the FBI had that fake encrypted messaging app.
Oh yeah. Yeah, right.
And so I got taken down on the same day as that, which made me look like a much bigger organised crime figure than I was. It was just pure coincidence.
Yeah, right.
But so my sister's a lawyer in New York, and so they're all reading the news, and they're like, "Fuck, how big was Anthony?" It's like, no, I wasn't using that. I was fucking using Wickr and fucking WhatsApp, and people just come over to my house to buy mushrooms. It was a pretty simple operation. It was just a very, very large operation at a dealer level, because I had, over the course of 15 years, just just had a referral system which had just blown out of control because I had exceptional drugs and exceptional customer service.
For sure, yeah.
Right, which
That's
if you have both of those, you're going to do well.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
It's the business model.
Yeah,
it sounds like you're pretty business savvy, like to be doing that and then a pizza shop as well. Like, you've obviously got a head on your shoulders.
So yeah, well. I think
hang on a minute.
I keep trying to compliment you.
I got caught firstly, and then also, I think from so much drug abuse for so long, I was doing so much coke for so long. I don't feel like I have my full mental faculties anymore.
I heard you say on a podcast you were doing 10 grand of coke a week. Is that?
Yeah, that would have been about right. So
crazy numbers.
That's 10 grand at a wholesale, not even retail. That's like,
Here's the business mind again.
Yeah, that would have been like.
That's crazy.
Yeah, I was probably doing like a knocker and a half. So what's that like? 28. 40 grams.
Yeah.
40,
that's nuts.
40 grams. I mean, I was sharing a little bit of it, but I was also doing like, by the end, I was doing like these Godzilla lines that were like, the size of like a 30 centimeter ruler and like as thick as a pencil, and just to feel anything. Because if you're doing
just to chase it, like
because if you're up to day 5 of coke and you haven't slept, you just to feel the coke, you need to have something so stupid that you're my nose is fucked, my brain's fucked.
And then that tied into your gambling addiction as well, I guess.
Yeah.
Just both those things playing off each other to keep you...
Sometimes. I mean, when I opened the restaurant, I slowly had gotten on top of the gambling. The gambling was less of a problem the last couple of years, but that got overtaken by just this monstrous drug, the cocaine consumption, which was just wild. So, I don't really... I don't miss it now.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I got tangled up in gambling for a bit, but nowhere near like your level. I'm playing like rookie numbers.
Do they even have $10 hits on pokies in this?
That's the thing. I heard you were addicted to the pokies. I can't get into them. I tried them. I think twice, and I just
do some coke,
get it,
and then get back.
The colours.
Yeah. No, my thing's sports and horses and dogs. And stuff.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Yeah.
I lost $3 grand on a college basketball game when we really needed the money once, and I was like, I need to back off. And then my mate lost 20 grand.
Back off? That's when you got to chase.
Yeah, exactly.
The next game would have been the one.
Yeah. And then my mate lost 20 grand on a horse, and I'm like, fuck, if I don't pull out now, like
that'll be me.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, it absolutely will be you.
Yeah, definitely. I'm at the point now where I can still dabble a bit, like on the UFC or something. I'll put some money on.
Yeah, I can't.
It's a slippery slope.
I can't dabble at all because I know just how slippery that slope is for me. I go from 0 to 100 real quick. That's the same with. That's why I drink now, but luckily I don't do drugs because. Luckily, my connection in my head between alcohol and cocaine was so bad at one point. I couldn't have like 3 beers without instantly thinking time for bags.
Yep.
But 4 months in prison was like rehab to me.
Yeah, okay.
It broke that connection. So now I can drink.
That was a choice though, because obviously there must have been drugs available.
They're really shit drugs. There's no bags of coke floating around in Long Bay Jail, mate. It's fucking like it's either ice or stuff that is called either buprenorphine or Suboxone. It's hillbilly heroin essentially. It's just like it comes in these strips. And it's like it's fucked. Like anyone who's doing that drug, it's fucked.
Crushed up duck feathers from the Chinese people.
It's like So anyway, the options were not like, oh hey man, do you want to get a fucking bag of coke for your fucking? If I was sitting in Long Bay Jail, I probably at that point would have got coke if it was available to me, and I would have been sitting in my 2x4 cell. Doing my cellmate's head in, like pacing 1 meter up and back, going like, "Oh, mate, so what are your charges? How long are you in for? Like, what should we do tomorrow? You want to work out?" Like, and he'd be like, "Shut up!" Like, you would have hitting me over the head with a kettle. Like, so anyway, I'm glad I couldn't score coke in prison, and it was long enough to break that cycle of addiction for me. But I know now people now will offer me it, or will be socially they'll. Off me a line, they go, "Oh, you used to shout me so much. Let me say thank you." And I'll be like, "Look, man, I really appreciate it, but I just can't do it because for me, not only may I turn back into a coke addict, I'll probably turn back into a fucking massive criminal.
Yeah,
I'll be back on. Still got the numbers. I could have a drug operation back up and running in 48 hours.
Yeah, definitely. Let's get this man some comedy.
We're back.
Because I was telling him before the podcast, I sent him the generic podcast invitation. And I'm like, we've got spirits here. You're welcome to them all. And then he goes, "Oh, I'll just have water." I'm like, "You're a fucking idiot. He's sober."
Nah, definitely not.
Luckily, you got here and he explained it to me, so I'm not a bad person.
Yeah.
There is one part of your arrest that I would like to talk about because I find it. You might not find it the funniest thing of the whole thing, but I do. And Adrian doesn't know your story, so. Could you tell us what the officer said to you when he put you on the ground?
Oh, so this all happened on the 4th of June, 2021.
Okay.
I was at home watching some Guy Ritchie movie called The Wrath of Man, and I was like day 3 of a coke bender, and I heard this crack noise in my front door, and I was like, "What the fuck was that?" Then I heard police search warrant, and I thought, "Fuck!" And then I ran upstairs, started flushing drugs down the toilet, and they breached the front door and started. You could hear them yelling downstairs, and they charged up the stairs with like a shield, and there was heaps of them. And I ran and hid behind my spare bedroom door because I was fucked up.
Yeah,
I was like, maybe they won't look here.
Yeah. It's a good spot. Yeah. Like behind the curtains and your feet sticking out.
Yeah. So anyway, they found me like really quickly, and then they like. Tackle me to the ground, and like there was like one guy like with his digging his knees into like my back of my thigh. There was one like digging his like knees into my back, and then this guy just leant down to my ear and he goes, "Stay down, you fat cunt! You got a tiny cock." And
so unnecessary.
And
how did you know?
So I was like fully clothed at the time. Yeah. So, you know, that became one of my first jokes, which was that must have been his way of letting me know that I'd been under surveillance, right? Because how else would they know that I had a tiny cock? Yeah. So sometimes the things that were just so ridiculous, which at the time were so intense, but then when I had time to think about it, you're like, actually, I have these ridiculous stories that are hilarious, and they helped me to write my first jokes. Yeah. So, it's funny how sometimes these horrible moments end up being a blessing in disguise.
Yeah. I'm again, nothing near what you've done, but I've had some crazy shit happen to me as well. And it's just taken me, like, I'll be sitting at Smoko one day and I'll be telling people a serious story and they'll be fucking laughing at me.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this happened in my life. And then now I've basically turned all those into bits and shit. And like, when I was trying to write, like, jokes, I guess you'd call them, like, they were working to an extent, but they weren't great. And now I've started using like my life shit, but like obviously sprinkling some sugar on it. It's just like
if it comes from a place that's real, either like it doesn't have to be a true story, but it can just be emotionally real. But just something where it taps into something that is real for you. I always feel like it resonates far more.
For sure,
right?
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with that. You're also part of one of my new favorite little rabbit holes on TikTok.
Yeah, man.
Yeah. Where did that all come from? Whose brainchild was that?
Again, this is just the kind of things that have been happening since I stopped doing crime and just started leading a very positive and productive life. What happened was I started getting a following on TikTok because of my prison food reviews that I'd post on there. And so off that, I got news coverage, and then I started posting all these other either stand-up clips or other kind of things that were prison-related, and I got an audience out of that. And then I got contacted by this young bloke that works in advertising who was like, "Hey, man, I'm a fan of yours. I'm wondering if you would want to shoot some, like, content with me." Yeah. And so he had this idea of just wanting to get a studio and just shoot some, like, dad jokes. We just get dad jokes off the internet, and we just sit there opposite each other and tell them. Yeah. And so I got a few
It's like that thing where if you laugh, you lose, that type of thing.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. So we'd sit there and we'd do shots. If you laugh, you lose, and you do shots. And so I got a bunch of local comedian friends together, and we started shooting that. And it's been like 4 months, and now the channel's blown up. It's got like 1.2 million followers on TikTok. It's got like 600. It's got like nearly 400,000 followers on Instagram, and like something stupid, like nearly 660,000 subscribers on YouTube. Yeah. Right. So the channel's blown up from 0 to 100 in like 2 seconds, and that because of that, now I can't walk down the street without someone being like, "Hey, like, wanted to tell me a joke." I've been at like pubs, so like a bouncer will come up full serious, and he'll be like, "Hey, mate, let me ask you a question." I'll be like, "What?" Yeah. And then you go, what do you call a lesbian dinosaur? And I'll be like, fuck's sake. And there's a massive Greek bouncer that came up to me the other day, and he's like, just walk past real quick, and then he just whispered me, he was like, you do the dad jokes on the internet. And just like, that was it. Like, you do the dad jokes on the internet. Like, yeah, I know, cunt.
Yeah, it's weird.
Thanks for reminding me.
Like, it's just something about it that, like, again, I guess it's like an addiction to people's brains, is just watching you guys just sit at a table and just, you can see you're trying not to laugh.
One of the videos got like 50 million views on TikTok, but yeah, some of them are just, the numbers are insane.
Yeah.
People seem to like the fact that I really struggle, because I'll write, of the jokes, I'll have 30 jokes there for the day, and of those, I'll probably write 5 of them myself.
Yeah.
Okay.
And when I haven't looked at them for a week or two before the shoot, and then we're sitting opposite each other, so you're like point blank range, so like we're just like really close to each other, point blank, and then there's lights and there's cameras, there's people watching, and then you pull out your paper and then you start reading these jokes that like you were laughing at when you either wrote them or when you picked them. People don't understand, because they're always like, stop laughing at your own jokes, but they're so, I find them so funny that when I start to try and read them out,
what do you call
I
a dog?
lose it, right? So
That can do magic.
That's one that blew up. That got 50 million views. Unfortunately, because I was laughing at my own joke, people were like, "Oh, he's funny." Unfortunately, they bullied Steph a fair bit because she didn't laugh. But that one was a bit rough.
I was trying to find one from this week. He's had Rory Lowe on.
Oh yeah, we had Rory on,
and your Michael Jackson one.
Yeah. So that was.
I was trying to quickly find it. I just quickly clicked on one.
There was one I wrote that I really struggled to get out, which was. Why was Boy George banned from the lizard enclosure?
Why is that?
Because he cummed on a chameleon. And when you're sitting like fucking right there under the lights and you look at it and you're trying to tell someone a joke about Boy George coming on a chameleon, it is so funny and it's so hard to do that people keep saying to me, stop. I mean, it's a minority that say, stop laughing at your own jokes, you ruin it.
Part of the fun.
It takes you back to like being in school and you're with your mates in class and you're not allowed to laugh, and that's when you're going to laugh the hardest.
Well, exactly right. We're about to shoot, now that you mentioned that, we're about to shoot in a couple of weeks one of those silent library kind of ones where you do challenges in a library and you've got to be full quiet. So I'm going to be terrible at that because everyone's going to be like, and then I'm just going to lose it.
That's it. That's when I buckle the most, is in situations where you're not meant to laugh.
Right.
I'm like, I don't know what it is about my head, but someone can be telling me like terrible news and my brain's just like, don't laugh. And I'm like, why would I even think about laughing?
And then next thing you know, you're like struggling to not laugh, right?
At school, like teachers would be yelling at me and they'd be like, stop smirking. And I'm like, I don't even know I'm doing it.
Yeah.
It sounds once like the ball starts rolling, then it's like you're in trouble.
Yeah, 100%. And it just takes one of your mates to give you a little smirk.
It sounds like you got the same condition as me. I call it resting laugh face. You know, like where I just like I'm constantly in a position where I'm like, I look like I'm about to laugh.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, just like I know I'm smiling, but I'm dead behind my eyes.
But it's crazy, that channel. I don't know where it's going to go, but like it's going to be on 1 million fucking subscribers on YouTube by probably end of September.
Yeah. Do you
get that block in?
Do you gig regularly with all those guys? Is that because you've got like crazy chemistry, which I think adds to it as well? Like,
so yeah, Seth and Alan Fang and Akilla and Chloe and Kate Dolan, we all are comics that are all gigging together in Sydney regularly. There's I think there's 3 of them that are just the guy who puts the show together. His friends. Okay. So they were part of the original crew. Matt, Abby, and Sam. Right. So they're not comics, but they're all like hilarious and fun anyway. People, So there's just been like this great chemistry from day dot, and you know, man, when you're just there trying to just say stupid jokes to try to make each other laugh, it's just something. Even though I watch this and I'm like, fuck, I can't believe they're getting so many views. It's so corny. Some of these is like just dumb internet jokes, but when so many people come together to just try and do something which is supposed to be so fun and silly, it just works. I think when there's just that shared mentality of having fun, it translates onto the screen.
Yeah. Yeah, there's nothing. There's no agenda. There's no nothing.
It's just dumb jokes.
Let's fucking have a laugh.
It's just my job today is to just have fun, try and make you laugh, but I mostly make myself laugh. And by doing that, people are like, "Oh, Andrew's just a fucking kamikaze."
Yeah.
I'll make myself laugh, and I'll probably make you laugh because I'm losing my shit at my own stupid jokes.
No, we both lose.
Whatever works, right?
Yeah.
So I've only won one game of it, which was the one with Rory.
Yeah.
But other than that,
it was a tough win.
The one I did against Steph, she won 10-1. So I'm constantly.
You're definitely one of my favourites to watch on there because it's just like.
Some people are like
you're smirking before they even start talking, and I'm like, he's done.
Right? Yeah. I'm already halfway there. You can say the stupidest joke. But so there are people that are like, "Oh, Edge is an idiot." Like, but most people are like, "Okay, he's actually they're having fun."
Yeah, that's it. That's why I like watching it. But so you're hoping to wrap up this. What's it called? Stories about the time I went to prison. Is that it?
Jokes about the time I went to prison.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
and then you're working on a whole nother hour.
So I'm doing for Sydney Fringe Festival in the start of September. I'll do a whole new show.
Okay, sweet.
Which I've called Andrew Hamilton Doesn't Mention Prison.
Nice.
Right?
Except for in the title.
Because everyone's like, well, what else has he got? So I'm like, I don't know either, but we're going to find it out.
That's sick. I think it's cool that you're challenging yourself like that.
Yeah, I was like, throw myself in the deep end. I'll call it that because then it snookers me. I have to literally write a show that doesn't mention it at all.
Yeah.
and I believe I can. That's why I constantly set these goals for myself because I'm like, I believe that they're challenging but realistic.
Yeah, for sure. And obviously, like, what'd you say? You're 37?
Yep.
And you went to jail for 4 months. If you've written an hour on 4 months, then you've got fucking... you've got 37
I've got a deep
more
well,
hours
my
in it.
friend.
Yeah,
I've got a
100%.
deep well of other shit to talk about.
That's it. Like some nights I'll sit down and I'll start writing and I think I've got a topic and then I'll veer back to when I was like 6 and start going on a whole nother story. I'm like, fuck, I forgot all about this.
There you go.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the cool thing about writing, right?
Yeah.
You just sometimes, you don't know what you've got until you start to tinker around.
Do you like physically write or do you come up with your bits on stage or?
So I've tried both ways.
Yep.
I've tried, like I'd come up with an idea just driving or on the train or whatever, and it would just be like a premise, and then I would try just exploring that on stage, like the gist of it, to see if I got a laugh. Then I'd go away and write more of it.
Okay.
And what I found is that's not the best way for me.
Yeah, that scares the fuck out of me to be trying to work something out in front of people.
I don't know why I thought that would work for me. But also...
I just laugh at my own joke on stage.
Well, I think most of the time I could come up with a decent short joke by doing it that way, like a 15-second joke. I can do that.
Yeah.
But so now I'm doing jokes that are like a 5-minute joke.
Yeah.
And there's no way in the world I could have done that without sitting down and writing it.
For sure.
Because... So I'm in the middle of working on this. I want to build it into like a 10-minute joke about ADHD.
Okay.
And it's working now as a 5-minute joke, but I want to build it out further.
Yeah.
And I sat down and I was working on that all day just to get it to where like I like it at the moment.
Yeah.
But it only was as good as it was because I sat down and kept building. Ideas kept coming as I was writing, and I'm like, "Fuck, okay, I've got to add that in, add it in." And then I had this well-written thing that I never would have got close to if I was trying to figure it out on stage.
Yeah. It's nuts how that works because I'm the same. I almost just let my fingers go on autopilot, and then something will come on the page. I'm like, "Fuck, that's funny." And
Yeah,
I think that though.
Right. Yeah. And your brain's when you're doing it slow like that, your brain in the background, you just never underestimate what your subconscious is doing for you.
For sure, yeah.
If you're sitting there focusing on writing the next bit, your brain is still thinking a few moves ahead.
Yeah.
Where can we go with this?
Yeah, definitely.
What else have you forgotten? What else can go there?
Yeah, it's crazy and scary, some of the shit I remember.
Sometimes you wake up the next day and you'll be like, and you realise your brain has been thinking about it overnight.
Yeah.
And there's an extra bit to it.
Yeah.
You know, so...
The last, 2 weeks or so, I've started doing something new. And I don't know if it's working or not. I haven't tried any of the new bits, but... I heard Tom Segura say he plays music while he writes, and I'm like, fuck, that'd be distracting as fuck for me.
Yeah.
But then I put almost just like instrumental music
Chill
on.
hop.
That's right. If it has no lyrics,
Yeah.
I find that better.
Do you? Yeah, right. Because I never even thought of it because I'm like, I need to
Symphony
be...
music or like just some kind of ambient music.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Because, same deal. I've especially noticed that I'm just going on tangents that I never expected. And I don't know... Sounds corny as fuck, but I don't know if it's because I'm like getting in the rhythm of the music and I'm just flowing sort of
It's
thing.
Beethoven, baby.
Yeah. 100%.
Yeah, so when I was studying, I'd put on classical music or chill hop music.
Yeah.
Just, yeah.
Yeah, get real creative
yeah.
and shit. But yeah, fuck. No, so that's sick. So you're doing Sydney Fringe, and then
Doing Sydney Fringe,
do you plan on doing all Adelaide Fringe and all that as well?
Yeah. So I'll do it all next year. I'll do Sydney. I'll do Adelaide Fringe. I'll do Perth. Then I'll go to Melbourne, hopefully with a whole new show.
Yeah, that's sick.
Yeah. So at the moment, I'm in a trajectory where I'm pretty close to being able to just work on comedy for 12 months because I just signed a book deal.
Nice. Sweet.
You won't guess what it's about. So
Pizza
yeah,
shops.
I've just signed a book deal to write the story about my life. I'd already written half of it when I was under house arrest, and
Sweet.
so that's the bit that they've read, and they made me an offer based on that.
Okay, that's cool.
So with that money, I'm planning to take 12 months. So I need to finish the book by the end of the year,
Yep.
and then hopefully spend the next year trying to turn comedy into an actual money spinner.
Career, yeah. Nice. So you're writing that book 100% on your own, or have you got like a what are they called? Like a publisher or a ghostwriter?
No,
Yeah,
it would
ghostwriter.
just be me.
Yeah, nice. That's
Yeah.
sick.
So, I mean, they liked. I read a book by Stephen King about writing books,
Okay.
and he recommended just writing 1,000 words a day. So when I was under house arrest, I used to get up every morning and
Yeah.
I just would sit. I'd get a coffee. I'd sit down at my desk and I'd write 1,000 words every
Yeah.
day. And then when I was done, I'd stop.
Yeah, okay.
And what I found was similar to comedy writing, like if I just leave it and then my mind thinks over it overnight, my subconscious, then by the
Yeah.
time I sit down the next day, another 1,000 words was ready to be rolling out. So
That's cool.
I found I got on quite a roll that, and I never felt defeated because 1,000 words isn't.
It's achievable.
It's
yeah.
achievable.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And so there'll be times where I'd get to 1,000 words and I'm like, oh fuck, I've got so
keep
much,
going.
I'm ready to go.
Yeah.
Keep going with more. I would stop
Yeah, okay.
That's
because
cool.
I didn't want to also get to the point where some days we're at 2,000, then the next day I got nothing.
Yeah,
so
yeah.
every day I just sat down with the same discipline, and then 70 days later I had 70,000 words.
That's awesome.
And so and a book only needs to be about 80 or 90,000. So they think I've got 3/4 of a book. I think I need to cut a lot of it. I think I've got half of one now. So
Okay.
I'll spend the next few months fine-tuning that into hopefully something which is not a big pile of dog shit.
Sweet.
it'll be
If
great.
it is, you can just take it on Mad and read it as a joke book.
I will flog the shit out of it.
100%.
I think that's part of the reason why they gave me the deal, because they're looking at my social media
Yeah.
and they were like, okay, this guy at least can flog his book.
Exactly,
You
yeah.
know?
Yeah, you're going somewhere. But yeah, no, I'm keen to see where you take it all, and we should probably fucking wrap it up so we can
sure.
get you to your gig up in the city.
Sure. Well, I mean, it's been fun to. Now you heard the story. How
Yeah,
do you
yeah,
feel?
what do you reckon?
Yeah. Not what I expected, but yeah.
Yeah.
What did you think it was going to be?
I don't know, just not that.
You got the magic mushroom king here, baby.
No.
Yeah.
Not get on the ground, you got a small dick.
Yeah, usually that's me.
Huh? Yeah. Think about that. There's a guy out there that's like, I said that.
Yeah. That's his party story.
One day I'll be at a gig and he'll come and he'll identify
Yeah.
himself to me.
By doing that.
Yeah. Because I do have my audience. I have a lot of prison officers.
Yep.
Okay.
Cops
Yep.
and crims, either ex or current crims.
Yeah.
People who have just been to prison that come to my shows, and they usually a lot of them will come and reveal themselves to me. Just
Yeah,
before
okay.
that. So
Yeah.
there was a guy when I was in Melbourne one night, all the way past. He goes, "Great show, mate. I work dog squad." That's so funny.
Yeah,
You
for
know,
sure.
they love to let me know that they're involved
Yeah.
in one way with the criminal justice system,
Yeah.
either committing the crimes or
Yeah.
trying to stop
It's
them.
all entangled
But,
with each other.
so
I guess,
one
yeah.
day I'm going to be doing the Edmore Theatre to thousands of people, and it's going to be, ex-crims,
Barrier down the middle.
ex-crims be like, "Oh, you're that dog that put me away."
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. You got shows the rest of the week?
Yes, I'm doing Good Chat Comedy Club Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I'm doing my solo show there on Thursday, and then I'm doing just a short 10-minute spot at Sit Down.
Okay.
on Saturday.
Nice.
Beautiful.
So
And this
yeah,
is coming
my first
out.
time
This is
kicking.
coming out next week. But shout out to Good Chat and Sit Down.
Yeah.
I'm sure you crushed at all of them, and there was more than 4 people at all of them.
Some people said they were the greatest shows I've ever seen in
that's-
Queensland.
That's what I heard.
They were.
Yeah,
If you weren't there, you'll be there next time.
yeah, 100%. Yeah, I'm sure you'll be fucking coming to Brisbane again soon with your stories not about prison. Was that it?
Andrew Hamilton doesn't mention prison.
That's the one. Let's finish on that. Thanks for coming in,
Thank you
mate.
very much.
We'll
No worries, boys.
See you later.
They have me.